They don't want what we know out there.
How a person can go from really almost nothing to becoming a millionaire by owning rental properties.
He would always buy these flip houses, and I just remember thinking, this guy is crazy. Why would he buy that house?
In the past decade, there's been a huge surge in the peer-to-peer short-term rental market.
Become an insider. So you have to know the rules before you get the game.
Every second counts. So make every second count.
Welcome to the Real Estate Jam. Whether you're just beginning or the best of the best, we're glad you're here. We will share successes, failures, and strategies for the action-taking real estate investor. And now to your hosts, JD and Melissa.
Hey guys, welcome to the Real Estate Jam podcast. I'm JD with my wonderful co-host, Melissa.
Hello. Hi, JD.
Hi, Melissa. How are you?
Great.
And we've brought in the big guns today on the co-hosting side. We got Josh, who is helping us with our short-term rental management company, starting up and really taking the lead on a lot of that stuff. So we thought it was important to get him on here today because we have an amazing guest. This is Culin Tate, and he's the author of Host Coach. He is a real estate investor that was doing so well that his friends and family started asking for tips and tricks, and he wants to share everything that he's come up with. He is public speaking, coaching, all kinds of really good information and experience that he's going to share with us today. So before we push too much into our introduction timeline, Culin, thanks for joining us on the show today.
Thanks, JD, Melissa, Josh. Good to be here.
Awesome. Well, most of our audience comes from the Panhandle region. Short-term rentals are a huge piece of that, and I'm hoping you can introduce yourself, give us a little bit of your background, and then we're gonna deep dive like this is a personal coaching session, and hopefully the audience is also going to receive some great information on it.
Yeah, I've always had an affinity, a passion about real estate. I'm a tech entrepreneur, and in 2018, I sold a tech company and dove into short-term rental with that eye towards technology. Okay.
And so how many years have you been investing in real estate?
Oh gosh, I purchased a condo early 2000s that I lived in and moved out of and kept it as a long-term rental, and purchased another condo in the same neighborhood with a partner. And the great thing about real estate is there's something for everybody, but long-term rentals just really never worked well for me. I always just hated that phone call when the toilet was backed up. But conversely, short-term rentals is more of a passion.
Okay.
Me too. Yeah, for sure.
And that passion is that in our market, a lot of the prices especially for on-market deals, but even off-market deals, the prices don't justify the low long-term rental rates. So when we're looking at investing, we're trying to maximize our ROI versus our time invested. And what we've seen is that short-term rentals, at least in our market, are tending to prove to be a better return on our time and money invested.
Absolutely. It's often, again, market dependent, but 5 to 10 times what you can achieve in a long-term rental. And I think part of that is because it's really a business that we get to operate in, right? We can make changes, we can make improvements, we can change prices, all very dynamically and quickly to maximize those revenues.
Yeah. And what's interesting is, so Josh and I are agents as well. And so with our market, we have probably 95% of our clients, maybe 96, that are all coming into this market to do short terms. That's all they're looking for.
And a lot of people are hanging their shingle and it as a short-term rental listings. And there's a lot more to it than just, taking a couple pictures with your iPhone and putting up a listing. We can dig into a bit of that, but a lot of people are getting into the market, but a lot of people aren't necessarily doing everything that they could to maximize revenues.
Well, along that lines, what do you think the key concepts that short-term rental investors need to be aware of in order to be successful, with either their first investment or their 20th investment?
It definitely starts with choosing the property and decorating and taking professional photos. That's sort of a entry level. But I think the biggest thing that most hosts miss is dynamic pricing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with that. And that's one of those things that if you're just running this as a hobby, you're not really thinking on maximizing your returns. Do you have recommendations on how they should tackle dynamic pricing? We are using Price Labs, I think is what we use for dynamic pricing. What do you got, or what do you recommend?
Yeah, Price Labs is my tool of choice as well. There are other options, Wheelhouse, Beyond Pricing. I think they're all probably pretty fine products, work in a similar way. One way that I use Price Labs a little differently than just turning it on is, I do set a base price and let Price Labs handle pricing, but I really keep a very close eye on my near-term occupancy and really focus on as a key to your success, not just in terms of maximizing revenue, through maximizing occupancy. And that's a revenue maximizing strategy, but more importantly, it's a listing optimizing strategy. So the algorithms care, how booked you are, your booking velocity and occupancy. So I take that next manual step with my Price Labs account to really focus on keeping my properties at 95% occupancy.
Wow. We've heard recently a couple of different thoughts on that. One of the individuals that we've been talking to, he believes that keeping a 50% occupancy because he's worried about wear and tear on the property. He wants to charge the higher nightly rate. Now he's in a different market than us, and their on season is about 10 months out of the year. So that changes in terms of vacation rental market. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on that concept.
Yeah, I would key off on the term worried, right? So that's a self-limiting belief. Right? So worry isn't necessarily real. You absolutely can only make money in your property the nights that it's booked, right? And your listing placement is going to be very much driven by your occupancy. As for seasonality, I think the world has changed in terms of seasonality. Maybe 10 years ago when you had a beach property, you might have a 14-week season, but I have clients with beach properties, particularly in the Carolinas, and my cabins in the mountains are booked year round, maybe at a slightly lower per night rate in those winter months, but particularly post-pandemic, people are looking to get out of the house and go somewhere different.
Yeah, we definitely see that. We like that. I guess when you say near-term occupancy, what does that actually mean? What are you're obviously we track our occupancy over the course of the year, but you're talking like on a weekly basis or a month out?
I keep a real close eye on my 15-day occupancy. So I'll let my pricing model, Price Labs, handle everything, right? Just let it automate that next month and the months after that. But if I have occupancy in the next 15 days, I will be manually going in and taking discounts, 5% off, 7% off, 9% off until I sell those nights.
Okay.
Yeah. So you cap it at 95. That's what your goal is.
Well, I say 95 because it's a realistic cap, sure. Right? You're always going to have an orphan here or there. I tend to only do, about half of my properties, I won't take a one-night stay. Some places I will, if it's an orphan night, an orphan being, bookended between two bookings. Sure. But my larger properties, I do avoid the one-night stays just, out of concern for, the party atmosphere.
Sure. And what is your typical minimum stay requirement? Are you 3, 5, 7 days?
I advocate for the 2-day minimum. If you're a beach, people are going to stay longer, right? But I wouldn't, particularly in the off season, I wouldn't disallow a guest from coming for a weekend. I talked about North Carolina. I have clients and friends in North Carolina, and I'll go down and stay, and I'm staying just for a weekend, right? So if it's September and I'm staying in a beach place, I might just need it for the weekend.
Right. Yeah, that definitely makes sense to me. So one of the things I'm wondering if you could share with our audience is you believe that there's four pillars of short-term rental investing. And I'm wondering if you could kind of pull back the curtain on those and let our audience hear.
Yeah, it's funny. We've touched on probably three of them so far, but we'll lay it out. And the first is find your where, right? So location, location, location. Find a location that you're passionate about, a place that you can drive to, if you're just getting started out, a place that you don't mind spending some time. So that is your personal where. We talk about finding our why. I think short-term rentals is about your where, also where you're passionate to spend time. The second is make it pop. We talked about that. Your decor, professional photos are an absolute must to stand off the page, to get that click, in an Airbnb results. The third is price per occupancy, right? Keep that occupancy high. If you have to go below your normal rate to make sure that you're filling holes in that 15-day window, do so, for the revenue maximization and for the listing optimization. And then that's the fourth, which a lot of people don't, this might be a 301 concept, level 301 concept, but knowing where your property is ranking over time on your OTA, your Airbnb. And I use a software called Rank Breeze for that tracks the property and tells me exactly where I'm showing for 2 guests or 3 guests for next weekend, next week. And so if you're not on that first page, right, it's like Google search. How often do you ever go past the first page? Your average Airbnb guest looks at 3 or 4 listings before they book. So if you're ranking in the 25th spot, you might want to make some changes to your policies or pricing to bring yourself up in those results.
Sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Do you think that ranking is based solely on your occupancy rate? Is it based off of the different amenities that you have? Are you putting a pack and play or a high chair in your units to increase your search results?
There's 101 little factors that play into it, but I think they can be categorized. And if you think about what Airbnb wants, on one hand, Airbnb wants to provide a great guest experience, right? So you as a host, are you getting 5-star reviews? Are people, are people really enjoying and coming back to your listing, right? So that's the guest experience. And then on the other side, you have to think Airbnb is a publicly traded company that wants to maximize their own revenues, right? So if they show you in the number 5 spot or number 1 spot, and you're able to close that listing, right? You're able to make that sale. It generates the service revenue for them. So there's a lot of things that play into that, but your occupancy and your pricing and your amenities, if you're able to close that lead, close that placement, then you're going to rank higher for the next search.
Sure. Now, when we're talking about for either short-term rental owners or small management companies, are you doing anything with yours, or have you heard about any different strategies to either maximize revenue or pick up additional forms of revenue outside of the typical rental rate or booking? Do you advocate any of those?
It's a fun thing about short-term rental business. There's 101 ways to skin the cat, and I've heard lots of things. People sell art, people sell snacks, people use Turo to rent cars, right? I don't personally do any of that. I think those are all fun ideas. One thing that I do is that some hosts do miss, which is extra guest fees. So over 3 guests, I charge an additional per night fee. And I think that is fair both from the host and guest perspective, particularly if you have a larger place, a 3 or 4 bedroom place, right? It keeps the price attractive for a couple who wants to stay in your 3 bedroom. But if 6 or 7 people are going to stay in that 3 bedroom, you can get, an extra guest fee of say $20 a night over 3 guests.
Sure. Do you adjust your cleaning fees accordingly too, based off size?
I do not. I do pay my cleaners a little bit more. I'm of the school of I try to keep my cleaning fees on the lower side, just because I hate to, select a place that's $200 a night and then I'm staying for 2 nights and then see a $200 cleaning fee.
Sure.
So I do try to keep those cleaning fees as low as possible, subsidize them partly.
Yeah, that does make sense. With ours, we the cleaning fee is set by our cleaner based off of the size and whatever it's going to be, and then we charge that directly to the guest. We don't do it based off of how many people are there. Just per property has a different fee. I think we run it pretty high because especially in this market, there's so many short-term rentals. I think keeping your team happy is one of the best things we can do. So we don't mind paying our cleaners a little bit more if that means they're going to show up at checkout and make sure that we're ready for a quick turn, especially in season. We're looking to keep them happy. It's the same with our maintenance people and our HVAC, all the team. I think building that good team is a key aspect to short-term rental property management.
JD, it's such a key to success, right? That that regardless of what we're charging the guest, keeping our cleaners happy, they're our number one asset, right? So I send Christmas cards, I buy gifts, I give bonuses, right? Yep. They're your trusted, that's for the audience. If you're getting into short-term rentals, build a relationship with your cleaner, your handy person, but especially that housekeeper who's going to be your eyes and ears and really treat the property like it was their own and have pride in the work that they're doing. I have housekeepers that love what they do, very educated people that just take pride in cleaning.
Yeah, that's great. Well, what does your team look like? Who are, obviously the cleaner is a key person, but are you bringing on full-time management people? Do you think having a direct relationship with the maintenance guy? What does your team look like, and how do you build that up?
So I'm at 9 short-term rentals. My wife and I manage them between us, right? As well as managing new acquisitions. But then I have 3 different housekeepers that I maintain very strong relationships with. And then, in terms of the other trades, it's a matter of just keeping a list, and working with different ones. I have a favorite electrician. I have a favorite plumber. I have a favorite handy person, and I treat them all very, very well. They're all, like friends.
Yeah, absolutely. So in addition to the people that make up your team, you're also, in order to manage 9 properties by yourself, stay successful, and still not be working every single day, you have some tools and some stuff that helps you with your automation and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the most important of those, and when I scaled from 1 to 4, the thing that saved me the most was software called Hospitable. And there's others, which is an automated messaging software, so that when I get a booking, this software automatically sends the guest everything that they're going to want to know about planning their trip. And then a few days before their arrival, everything that they need to know about accessing the property. And then it even writes reviews on your behalf. So that takes 90% of the work out of guest communications.
Right. Are you doing anything to try to capture guests outside of VRBO or Airbnb, trying to directly connect with the guests to, I guess, minimize the Airbnb fees? Or are you running solely off of the established platforms?
So I'm a big proponent of sole platform, whichever platform that may be, not spreading your reviews and your booking occupancy and that closing ratio across platforms. I do some things to promote my listings, but I don't take direct bookings. Again, I consider that a dilution. So, I have a website for my properties. I run some Facebook ads to that website, but all of those link directly to my Airbnb listings as a way of just feeding that engine.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. And then what are you doing to ensure that you're getting the reviews the way you like them? What extra steps, if any, are you doing to make sure that those 5-star reviews keep coming?
I think the review starts with that initial message. So I try to be a concierge for my guests. A lot of people are coming from out of town. And it's great to get a message that says, here's my favorite restaurant. Here's a place to stop and get apple cider donuts on the way on your drive into town, right? Those touches that help them plan their trip. Think about any trip you've ever been on, right? You book the place and then you start scratching your head and figuring out what to do. Where am I going to go to dinner? Where's a good place? What's a good activity for the kids, right? So I try to start by leading my guests and giving them all those favorite recommendations.
Sure. Yeah, that is really great. Now, so that's the good side. The guest comes, has a great time, writes you a 5-star review. How are you handling any negative reviews that you get?
You just have to understand that some people are cranky, right? And you have to have a thick skin. I'm generally trying to be as professional about it as possible. Someone writes a bad review, we'll usually respond and say, we wish you would have let us know of your concern, because that's usually where a bad review comes from, is when someone finds something and then doesn't tell you about it, doesn't give you an opportunity to make it right. So we'll usually say something in the response like, we wish you to let us know that sooner, but thank you very much. That feedback will make us the property better for the next guests.
Right. So you believe in responding back to all the reviews?
I think that's good practice. A lot of people do that. At my scale, it's not really practical.
Sure.
So I only respond back to reviews that I feel like, I need to add into the conversation. And you know how it goes. You've read the reviews of a hotel or a restaurant, and you can pick the bad apples out, right? So if 99 people are saying this place is great, and one person says, the sofa wasn't comfortable, as a viewer or reader of those reviews, I know that the person's complaining about the comfort of the sofa might be an outlier.
Sure. And we've also had some success with the reviews that don't meet the community guidelines, getting those removed. People who are blatantly either lying or having other problems, just reaching out directly to the platform and explaining where the rule violation happened and the situation. We've had some good success. There's some things we can't control, right? Like in ours, one of the negative reviews was that our community pool was a little small, and so I think they marked us down a star because the community pool is not as big as they would like, and there's nothing really you can do about that. Right. We push, it's in the listing and
plus
everything.
there were pictures of it, so
pictures of the pool.
That's one of those bad apple, sofa wasn't comfortable enough type of reviews that I think people, they see through. I've had 1,600 plus reviews, and luckily I have not had the occasion to have to reach out to Airbnb. But, contrary to popular belief, Airbnb, I've always found really great to work with, right?
Me too. I agree.
If a guest's having a problem, I'll want to get ahead of it maybe and call Airbnb and tell them what's going on. I've always found them to be, extremely helpful in those situations.
I agree. I've had nothing but good success with them with any issues that we've had.
Right. And the recommendation that we always make to everybody is don't just send the email, don't just contact them, but get on the phone and actually talk to somebody.
Yes.
And they're going to be more willing
100%.
to help you out.
100%. Yeah. It's kind of like when you get a car accident, the first thing you do is you want to get ahead of the story and call your, your insurance agent. I tend to take the same type of approach. If I sense something's, a guest is a little unhappy about something, well, more than a little unhappy, if I sense a problem coming, I'll pick up the phone too.
Sure. Right. Now, when you're speaking of problems, obviously not every single guest is going to be a great guest, but have you had any issues with severe damage or people not leaving when they're supposed to? And then are you using any type of special insurance to cover any of those additional fees, or just your typical homeowner's insurance?
That's always evolving. I had one guest, right? I had a guest about a year ago. It was a group of people that were obviously partying and didn't leave on time. And it was about $400 or $500 worth of damage to linens and things like that. Now, in the scope of business, that's, you have to take that as a cost of doing business. But, the platforms these days have, security deposits. They have, Airbnb has their new air cover. So it's really just not that significant in the scope of business. But I guess different markets, you could be, nearer a college town or, a party town where you would want to look, beyond Airbnb's air coverage. Obviously we have good insurance. Proper insurance is really well known in the industry, is really standing behind hosts and being designed for things not just like covering damage, but like loss of revenue, for example. If something significant were to happen, they have policies that cover even for your loss of revenue during a repair.
Awesome. Now, Before we wrap it up, I'm hoping you could maybe give our audience a little bit of understanding of the books that you've wrote and why they would be important for them to jump on and take a look at. There it is.
My wife and I wrote this book together, and there's a lot of books on the subject. If you go to Amazon, there's 50 plus books on Airbnb and short-term rentals. This book was really written from our experience as coaches. So not just our properties, but the hundreds of people that we coached. And we took and distilled that into a step-by-step plan, right? It's not a book report on the features of a specific software. This is where you would start your journey, how to think about where you want to find a property, how to think about financing it, and then just decorating, in every step along the way, following our process and best practices from our coaching clients. We call it a blueprint to financial freedom. And it's not just about creating a profit maximizing real estate asset. It's about how do you become financially free through that cash flow.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's great. And we got our copy in the mail coming. So I can't wait for us to be able to read it and gain all those awesome insights. Now, if people in our audience wanted to reach out and find out more about you, maybe connect with you on social media, where should we be sending them?
So on social media, we're on Instagram, and that's a fun account because we do a lot of the behind the scenes kind of stuff when we're renovating. And so that's Instagram at host_coach. And then the book Host Coach is on Amazon. And then our website for our coaching, we can reach out to us for a consultation is hostcoach.co.
Terrific. Thank you. Yeah. That was great.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we'll look forward to talking to you again. Hopefully we can get on there and put an amazing review on your book once we get it and read it in our book club. But we really do appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing some of these little golden nuggets of short-term rental investing knowledge.
Thanks you guys, and happy hope I've been able to help your audience.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Jam. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information, check out our website, therealestatejam.com, or find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Real Estate Jam. If you have any questions, feel free to drop us an email at therealestatejam@gmail.com. See you next episode.